You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
The ones who stopped showing up for me, who actually was not in full transparency. This was a barter early in my coaching days, and I was coaching them and they were coaching me on something different. And they I turned out I couldn't trust them to show up for the sessions. It was hard to get a hold of them. I delivered my part of it professionally, but they did not deliver their part professionally. And so I'm just glad I didn't do a longer term engagement with them or pay for that, because that would have been very, very disappointing. And so knowing that you're going to show up is actually really, really important.
Yeah, I love it. You're actually bringing up, and that's happened to me too. So after a while, I stopped doing that. If somebody wants to coach me on a specific service, I tell them, like, just walk me through your normal process. I'd be happy to pay, and if you want my coaching, you can pay me, even if it equals out at the end. Even if it's like, and that's happened before. And for me, every time I've done a barter, so it really depends on how you have to really trust this person that they're going to show up in a specific. So if you're doing barter, it might or might not work, but a lot of times it's probably worth it to just pay the coach that you want and be coached. And that's part of the reason why our community actually works, because we have our chain within it, but they're actually paying to be part of the chain. They're not doing it for free, even though
Everybody's committed. Yeah,
everybody's committed in the process. That's why it works better than kind of beta coaching outside.
It's one of the reasons. There's a bunch of reasons in there. But anyway, back to the topic of our discovery sessions. We have a few more minutes here. What else stood out to you, Faisal, from our discussion with the coaches who are learning this process?
Yeah, one of the sections in there, and one of the first sections, I think it was around the challenge area when we're going into struggles. And the second section, a lot of newer coaches will jump in and they try to solve for a quick problem, because it gives them it's easier to do that. But what we were teaching in the process was that you need to hold off on that. Do a lot of discovery in the beginning, so you understand what are the problems and challenges that really matter to them, that they really feel that they need to solve for. That will come together after you understand their short-term and long-term plan, and after you understand what matters to them in the process. Then you can solve for one or two things, or one big thing that you're going towards. Now, a lot of the coaches, that was one of the insights, is that, it's easy for me to jump in. And then it is. It takes actually a lot of restraints to not jump into a problem that they're sharing right there that might not even mean anything to them at the end of the session. And they'll be like, oh, okay. That one, they kind of get the false sense of security or solution for themselves, because most of their bigger challenges cannot be solved in that one session. Yeah, and two, we didn't actually dig into the areas that really mattered to them. And so we didn't even get the opportunity to open up that area that they really need to deal with. For example, I had a client that actually signed up yesterday. I was telling you about this last week. I said that I know he's going to sign up. I was sure before even the offer call. And I had the sales call yesterday with them. It was a 30-minute follow-up call, and the strategy session that I did, discovery call for 2 hours that I did, that didn't even go into the areas that he came to me for. It just became about his realization that he needs to pay attention to his relationship with his wife. That is it. I didn't even solve for anything. It's just, by the end of it, he understood so deeply the impact of his relationship with his wife, the impact of it on his kids, on his business, on every part of it, his life and his future vision, that he was in shock at the end of it. I could tell.
Yeah, if you do a great job at clarity coaching, you've already probably added enough value and demonstrated in some ways your coaching skills. And you may not need to do any coaching or solving, because they've already gotten the experience. But it's simpler to say, do the clarifications and then do the coaching, especially for newer coaches. It's easier that way, right? But once you get more facility with the process, you know that the clarity coaching part is so powerful that they might actually have the big insight they need already by the time you get to the end of that part. And now you're both super clear on a lot of where the focus needs to be for them going forward. And you can learn still about the other areas in their life that this is going to be important for. But like in that example, you had this one realization about the relationship that's going to affect so many other areas. And the key is to extend these insights to other impacts in their life, other people, other roles, other circumstances, other versions of the same thing happening elsewhere, and to help them see there's so much opportunity for them to dial this up, for them to achieve what they're trying to achieve and like solve those obstacles. But we're not going to be able to do all of them right now, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it didn't come to you because it was an easy thing to solve. So that's where you can naturally transition to the offer once you have some significant insight for them, and you've demonstrated that you can coach them and they can trust you long term, which is where the story comes in and all that. Then you can transition to the offer and say, okay, it's really simple. Like, do you want to keep doing this? Is the simplest way. And if the answer is yes, like, well, here's how much it costs.
Yeah, and I literally asked the clients, like, would you like to continue in a coaching like this? Would this kind of coaching serve you moving forward? It's like, yeah. And then when we got on the next call, the two things he shared that was really powerful for me to hear. One, that he's like, I wish I had met you 5 years ago, because that's when his challenges started. Which like when you hear that, and this is why, like, when you meet a client that you can serve, don't give up on that, because you might be the last person that they talk to, and they will go on for the next few years and completely forget about their problem or suppress it or put it on the side. I wish I had met you 5 years ago. And he's like, this is so much worth it for me than what I thought this coaching would be. But now all that stuff that he thought, coach, that's also part of the coaching process. Now that raises the value to a whole other level. Now, just a couple of other things in there that were big realizations. One, understanding their long-term outcome is very, very important. Yes. And one of the reasons why with this client I was able to connect, because when he saw his vision, when he described his ideal life, one of the most important components of the ideal life was with his wife, with his relationship, and how their family dynamics were and how he wants to feel, even though he kept avoiding the conversation throughout. But that's what he wanted. And the more he talked about it, I could tell clearly he hadn't thought enough about his vision of what he wanted in his life. And he felt it. He's like, oh, shoot, this is important to me. So had he not connected it to what he wants 5 years down the road, he would have just continued on doing whatever he was doing, because he thought it was like, if I just focus on my kids and my business, everything would be just fine.
And almost nobody makes those connections in their mind on their own, because they're not taking the time to reflect and to really think and journal about what they want. And the coaching environment can create a really powerful space for them to do that, maybe for the first time ever or the first time in a long time. And even something simple like, oh, I want my relationship to feel like this. Have they ever even expressed that out loud to anybody? Maybe not. And even if they have, it's like, oh, yeah, I needed that reminder right now of what I want in life. And so that can be so powerful. Even just clarifying and helping people share what they actually want longer term, or their life context in general to be, can be really, really powerful.
Yeah. And also part of the reason why, like, a lot of things come up for people in these coaching sessions. So part of the reason why he didn't, like, one, there was too much pain, so he had completely removed it from his awareness consciously. But there were alarming signs that I had to kind of feed it back to him, that, hey, because they were not only living like roommates, but he had to an extent given up on the relationship. And I had to ask questions like, if this continues, what do you see? Initially, he couldn't even see his wife in his future. I'm like, is that what you want? But like, these are things that we feel, but we don't bring, they're not in the conscious awareness piece. We're just busy with things that we're doing. And clients do that. Now, it doesn't have to be on the relationship side. That same thing could happen in a different piece of their life. That same thing could happen in their health. That same thing could be happening with their focus on the relationships, but their business is just tanking, or their future of their job is tanking and they haven't even thought about it. But the discovery helps you connect all the pieces. And then at the end, there might be a solutioning process that you come up with. But the whole thing might be is like, I never thought of it in this way.
It's the nature of life that we don't pay attention to the things that matter to us for periods of time, right? Where we'll fill our time with the things that we're trying to get done, and we don't actually remember what we're actually feeling, right? And so most people go through that, and they can spend years, they can spend decades avoiding those things. Yeah. That actually really, really matters. So that's what you find out in the discovery call. You find out what matters, what's gonna matter, and what this person will need to overcome all the struggles that are preventing them from getting to what matters. So it's really ultimately what you do in the discovery call, and you help them make a decision, whether it's taking action in their life or signing up for coaching for you. Those are just examples of decisions that you can help them get the courage and the clarity to make.
Yeah, for sure. And so we have the framework in the recording for the delivery masterclass, and we've even uploaded the PDF for it. So you can literally use it as a reference when you're doing your calls. There are question examples that you can, recommendations that we've put in. You can add your own questions, you can add your own tools to it. But this could be a very powerful set, and I've used the same, we've used the same framework to sell coaching packages anywhere from $5,000 to close to $50,000. So there's it's just a matter of you doing it and refining it for yourself. It's a guideline that will help you move forward. So if you want access to that, just type #delivery in the Facebook Live if you're listening to this in the Facebook group, or if you are listening to this again on the podcast or YouTube, just reach out to us in one of the channels that are listed in the details section in there.
All right, Coaches Nation, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We had a great time doing the masterclass and doing this podcast. We're here to serve you. So let us know how we can help, and definitely get that masterclass recording, because I tell you, if you run that even a dozen times, I was going to say 100 times, but just run that a dozen times, you're going to be really dangerous as a salesperson, in a good way, So enjoy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, take care. Hope you have an incredible day. Bye.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey Podcast.